good signal.
I can tell you when it's 5 minutes.
Yeah. Perfect.
Perfect.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. Yeah, we're going to talk about securing digital identity in the age of AI. My name is Titus, actually. I'm originally Romanian. I run go-to-market for Civic. So why am I here? I've been in the AI and identity space for maybe 8 years now. Got my machine learning certificate when the Coursera course came out. Been working with LLMs hands-on in the past 3 years, and I've co-written papers with IIW, Internet Identity Week, and co-authored stuff with the World Economic Forum on AI, and co-coordinated a couple of books on AI. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. You can find me on X and on LinkedIn. And a little bit about Civic. Who here knows Civic? Raise your hand. Okay, quite a few people. Yeah, we're a digital identity platform. We've been around for, I think, 9 years now. So we're kind of launched in 2017. Multi-chain tokenized identity is our thing. We've issued 900,000 passes to date for about 570 dApps and projects. You might remember kind of the NFT days, and now with airdrops and with sybil protection, we're on most of your favorite L2s and on mainnet. So whatever chain you're working on, whatever type of L2 you're working on, we're probably there. But yeah, what's going on in AI? That's what we're here to talk about today. There's GPUs are all over the news with NVIDIA going up. That's providing power for all these cool language models, LLMs. If you don't know what those are, it's basically ChatGPT, but there's maybe a dozen or so out there getting powerful and smarter every single day. And then on top of that, they know more than language. They now know how to do image and video, and they're doing it pretty well. And why is that? Because basically they're scraping the entire internet. Whether we like it or not, that's happening today. It's a reality. More models are being created every single day. They're getting improved. And that leads to, I would say, bot sophistication is the result of that. Now, I'll focus on a couple of problems, and then we'll talk about some of the solutions we have out there. So, language models. So what does this do? It lowers the bar for a few things. So phishing attacks, fraudulent content, and social engineering. It's just easier for people to create cool content out there that looks like a legit project, but it's actually not. So all the emails that you get from all these impersonators, they're now easily generated with the help of language models. Same for any kind of fraudulent content on Medium, promoting this fake airdrop that will drain your wallet for sure. And then social engineering, it picks up information from your profile. It'll take your public feed from Twitter or from LinkedIn or from your Facebook, that if it's public, and it'll basically impersonate you in front of other people. And that's just a simple one. The more sophisticated ones are when people are trying to, for example, buy a house and there's an escrow company or a title company involved. An attacker will just infiltrate the email account of that company, and it'll sit there. It'll try to learn the style of a specific agent. It'll put that through a language model, and then next time when a transaction happens, they'll send the email impersonating that person with the exact style that they're writing. So it's very hard to detect that you're now getting fraudulent transfer information. Now, image and video generation, this is even spookier. Deepfake scams, like impersonating people in video calls. Now, a lot of business is done through video calls. It's easy to get a bunch of people on board that look like the people you're dealing with. Unauthorized content, also creepy, because now people think they can take images off the internet without your authorization and create, well, your imagination can tell you what kind of content they can create. And then the last one is automated credential creation. This is more kind of directly tied to identity. It's easier than ever to create fake IDs, and I'll show that a little bit later. Now, what does this mean for the real world? Essentially, what I said earlier about the image and video content without consent. So likeness is depicted. You don't have any control over that. Realistic fake ID document generation, that's a big problem for the identity industry in general. And then the last one is audio likeness creation without consent. This is especially important for artists. I don't know if anyone's heard the recent scandal with OpenAI and Scarlett Johansson, and the fact that they basically took her voice, modified it slightly, and then released it, and then that ended up in a lawsuit. Anyone can go through that if your voice is recorded on the internet, on YouTube, for example, in a video, not just artists on Spotify or at concerts. Now, just to illustrate the Gen AI likeness problem, so anyone with a photo can create something like this. There are various degrees of likeness, and then not all likeness is wrong or bad, but in this case, this takes for a meme and generates a video that does not actually exist. This person did not film this. anyone can take a photo of your Instagram and generate a video like this right now with the models that exist today available for a small subscription fee. Now, I'm not saying all of them are wrong or bad. It can be funny like this meme, but imagine like putting yourself in a different situation that you haven't consented to, and that's then potentially damaging to your reputation. And then, I mean, there's also discussion of degrees of likeness. This is a like-for-like exact likeness, but you can also have cartoon generated. Therefore, the conversation becomes muddier there. Now, when it comes to ID document generation, these models enable create bad actors to create these IDs at scale right now. Like, it's pretty easy to generate a photo ID on the internet. Now, that barrier of entry is lower, and then the verification posts are essentially obsolete. So this post was actually created by an AI. This is not a real verification photo. And it was generated based off of that ID card that I have over there. So the barrier of entry is much lower. Therefore, the KYC requirements are likely to increase over the next few years, adding more private keys, adding more complexity to the process. And then for audio likeness generation, this is an interesting one. So as I said, models are out there, they're building the best stuff. They've been out there since 2023. It's harder for us humans to objectively compare voices. So if you hear somebody over the phone, you may know they're them, but like only if you know them really, really well. And then audio plus deepfakes are extremely convincing. And I have this one has audio, so I'm gonna be quiet for a second and show you how good it is. And you might recognize this if you're from my generation.
Bring Me to Life by Evanescence, but it's sung by AI Chester Bennington. Oh, man.
So this was all generated by a model, like just by feeding it, hey, this is the prompt, this is the output. This is how powerful this tech is today. And this is available for anyone to do it, like not just like Instagram influencers. So yeah, what are the threats for us in the crypto space, in the blockchain space? Like, the main one, I think, is the sybil attack. We've been talking about it throughout the day. We'll talk about it probably some more in the next couple of days. Blockchain governance, consensus mechanism, they're all vulnerable for a few bad actors coalescing around a few addresses. And then impersonation attacks, like we've all gotten those emails, gotten those links to whatever fraudulent contract that will drain our wallet. So these are, I think, the main ones that right now challenge our industry. So sybil attacks, they're easy to orchestrate now. You can buy verified wallets almost anywhere at this point for a few dollars a piece, especially if the airdrop is big enough, then the bounty is big enough. It's basically easy to sabotage, unfortunately. So it's up to us, kind of as builders in the space, to decide how much friction do we want to introduce to protect our airdrops and our reward distribution and basically the things that we want to do for our communities while protecting the community itself. Because ultimately, what happens if a sybil attack is successful, it ruins the community. Impersonation attacks are more personal, so these go more at the individual level. This is for people to either pass your KYC process or your identity verification process, or to essentially steal your assets. So there are masks now. They're getting better, and they're basically they're what's that word for it? They're good enough to fool biometrics. Stolen data can be used in impersonation attacks. SIM swapping, we know that from kind of a few years ago. And then password theft, I mean, that's the most basic one that forced 2FA on almost everything. So what exactly can we do to protect ourselves from all of these attacks? Essentially, there's two sections of solutions that I want to focus on. One is chain agnostic, so both on-chain, off-chain. It's basically biometrics checks for humanness and uniqueness. And the other one is multi-factor identification. It's an evolution of 2FA, if you want. And then on-chain, specifically, permission smart contracts. I know we like to talk about permissionless in this space, and I think that's great, and it's definitely a place for it. And I think we're getting more and more to the conclusion that there needs to be some form of permissioned smart contracts for assets that are more real-world linked. And then verifiable credentials for Gen AI. This is a big one. Bots will be out there. There are already some that are experimenting with AI agents. How do we identify them? How do we identify their permission? How do we allocate and revoke those? And then verify credentials for Gen AI, for agents. And then for Gen AI, is like, how do we ensure that the content that goes into the generative AI is verified or is approved or is consented, right? Especially for those that are generating image or audio. Now, a little bit more details about this. So biometrics checks for humanness and uniqueness. We believe like there's like a spectrum between friction and security. Liveness and uniqueness seem to be at that middle section where the trade-off between adding too little friction and too much friction to increase the security of your DApp or your smart contract. This means capturing some sort of signals from the user to prove that they are indeed alive, not a bot, and then unique, not trying to do sybil. Now, for multi-factor, the old way, which is like also sort of relatively new, once we realized passwords were compromised as a single authentication system, then we introduced SMSs, FIDO, time-based authentication, email, phone, but it's mostly a one-time check, so we try to make it easy for the user to stay on. I think the new way will be, for example, if you have a wallet that has over, I don't know, 50K in dollar equivalent of crypto, I mean, you kind of want to add another layer of friction when somebody's trying to take out more than 90% of that wallet's value at one time. Even if it's you, like, how do you prove that? So we need to add something like biometrics to this. We need to add device-linked authentication, maybe an NFC, physical ID card, EID wallets that are being now developed all over Europe. It's more like a continuous verification approach versus a one-time check. So from a permission smart contract perspective, it's adding the rules to the tokens themselves. So I talked about it a little bit earlier. When you're building your smart contract for the token that you want to release, like obviously you want as much distribution as possible for most things. Now, if you're dealing with assets within a regulated jurisdiction, the last thing you want to do is issue a fractionized ownership of an apartment building that's yielding rent, and that ownership proof ends up in a sanctioned country. And that person in the sanctioned country now tries to claim some sort of reward from you and your jurisdiction. So for example, you're doing kind of European Union only sale or US only sale, and then that token ends up in, let's say, North Korea. So I mean, that puts you more in hot water as a asset issuer than the other person. So there's now a way to link the rules of that particular token to identity elements and verify them continuously. On-chain attestations, this is like exactly what we do. You can issue those attestations for some challenge, which can be CAPTCHA, which can be government ID, or it can be the liveness or uniqueness in between, or it can be whatever you decide you want it to be, and then check it with the help of an API or directly on-chain with a smart contract. Now, why all this? Because I think we believe it is like a future where we can reliably have unique individuals on-chain and off-chain that you can interact with. You no longer have like this person is 50,000 addresses that's trying to collude our governance system. And then the other very important thing is like consent for generation. And not just for the content creator, like for example, you're an author or an artist that created a piece of content that now it's like part of a Gen AI model, but specifically for like if somebody takes a photo of you and wants to generate a video, like a deepfake video, they would need to show consent of that person depicted in that image before generating that model. It'll be the same with the audio. And I think this kind of attestation, this kind of like identity verification model can lead us to a world in that space. Now, if we have a little bit more time, I want to show a quick demo of how our uniqueness pass works. Because I talked about it a few times during the presentation. So essentially, you want to get one. It's pretty straightforward. It takes you through a verification flow. And this is very important. We want to make sure that you're the owner of the wallet. So signature request is important to access the key there. And then we go through a quick biometric check. And I know that can be scary for people. Hi, Kevin. But ultimately what happens is we take a representation of that, encrypt it to be able to compare it later. It all is fairly straightforward, very cheap, accessible for almost anyone out there on chain. This is on Polygon, but it can be on any L2. So once your pass is active, then now you can show that you are a unique person on chain. And if you try to spin up a new wallet with the same facial recognition process, you will be denied, and that keeps bad actors out. Cool. And that is me. Thank you. All right, any questions out there? We have one. Oh yeah, and check us out, civic.com or @civickey on Twitter. So we're out there. We have questions. You can start using it right away. Yes.
Hi. With regards to the safety of your application, whenever you take this face scan, do you immediately delete it, or do you need to keep that as, I don't know, a later proof?
So we don't keep the face scans themselves. We keep mathematical output of it, like some measurements, essentially. It's basically a vector, if you want to go into the details of it, that is encrypted with a key so that we can compare it later.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about if you have a data breach at some point, no one's going to have a face scan of me or my national identity document. They can't access that.
For the Face ID specifically, no, that is not the case. For the identity documents, we are required to hold it in transit for up to 14 days.
Okay, so you have that image for up to 14 days?
Up to 14 days, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but not the face. The face itself, we just keep the mathematical result of that. It's encrypted.
Okay.
And that has no value to anyone.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions? There's one in the back. And then one in the front here.
Thank you. Hi, I wanted to ask, is the process reversible for the face scan? Like, if another person cannot recreate another identity with the biometric data, what if, in any case, someone was forced to put their face on to create an identity? Like, can you take it back?
Yeah, we have a revocation process. It can be deleted from the system, and then you can start fresh.
And what do you need to prove it?
So you need to go through the face scan again. And then if it matches, then we go through a revocation process, and there's a 7-day cooldown period for this in production to obviously avoid bad actors trying to exploit that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And there was one more question here in the front. Mike is coming.
Hi, thank you. Hi, thank you. How do you detect duplicates, and how do you kick out? What about the twins, for instance? Like what?
The
twins people, like they look.
Oh, the
like
twins.
Yeah. How do you detect duplicates and kick out people?
So we use the technologies like at the National Institute of Security Standards, and like US has like a list of all of these biometrics technologies that have been tested. So we use one of those technologies that enables us to detect the difference between also twins, and also to compare based on the output that I talked about earlier. Those numbers that can come out of the scan themselves, those can be compared against the new scan.
Okay, so when you say you kick out the second person, on which data you kick out? Like, what do you compare?
Yeah, so when the first person gets onboarded with their uniqueness, that's connected to their wallet, right? So a new wallet comes in with the same person behind it. When they go through the facial recognition process, then we compare those numbers that output from the first process with the person that's trying to do the second one.
Okay, so
and then the second wallet is not allowed to participate in the process anymore because they already have a wallet that's verified.
Yeah, but the person can have several wallets, right? So the goal is to have only one wallet.
Yes, the goal is to have one person, one wallet for that use case. Yeah, yeah. Because you want them to only claim one airdrop or one reward or one account in one game. So things like, or one vote in one governance system.
So meaning you're keeping the data of the people inside of your database, so checking and kick out people or prevent duplicates, I guess.
There is a database behind it with the numbers that come out of the verification, which we run against.
Like a hash or something, you do like something. Okay.
Yeah, it's a backend process that we do
Okay.
for this particular pass.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, we don't have time anymore. Sorry. Well, find me after the talk and we can chat. Thank you, guys.